I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one, no doubt from people who come in their own hands and sniff it every time they hear the word ray tracing, but hear me out. Cyberpunk 2077 has one of the worst openings to a video game I've ever played. Where do I even start here? Well, first off, I played the game for around about 3 hours. Now, that may not seem like a long time, but I actually wanted to turn it off after 1 hour, but I didn't, thinking that, oh, I paid so much for this game, it's been so much hype, it just has to get good at some point. And over the next 2 hours, just nothing happened, it just never did. To start off, let's talk about the prologue as a whole. Red Dead Redemption got a lot of shit for the prologue being way longer than it had to be, at roughly 2 hours in just a boring, snowy environment. Cyberpunk takes 5 hours, and like Red Dead's prologue, where there's story, there's relationships between characters being developed and established, and even actual action, nothing happens in Cyberpunk. On top of this, not only does nothing happen, but everything's just so poorly written. There's 3 different backstories in the game that determine how the game starts and how you meet Jackie, the game's secondary character. And to explain how bad this is, I'll just walk you through my experience with it. In my playthrough, the way I met Jackie was he stuck a gun in my face when I tried to steal a car, the police came, and then for some reason, I'm just friends with Jackie. Everything's all well and good, and now we're just buddy-buddy, despite the fact that he just put a gun in my face. Nothing's really said about him screwing me over. Then the guy I'm trying to help in that first mission is just, like, forgotten about. Like, that doesn't matter anymore for some reason. Even though you're literally stealing the car to help him pay his debts, otherwise they're going to break his legs. Just gloss over that one. It doesn't matter who's that guy. Fuck it. Now, so far in the game, you've made your character, you've talked, you've met people, and you've talked, and you've got into a car with an old friend, and you've talked, and you stole the car, and you meet Jackie, and this takes about 20 minutes. So already, not the best start, but now you have your partner in crime, right? It has to just kick off. It has to just go crazy, and this is where everything happens, right? But no, because all the action you're actually about to experience is in a montage. Yep. Instead of letting you get into cool bar fights and, you know, rough up some NATO wells, and you just get to watch it. No idea what's going on other than the fact that you and Jackie are just doing gang shit. It doesn't introduce characters, doesn't set up the story in any way, it just shows you stuff. Then when you think you're finally getting into gameplay, the prologue has sailed, and, you know, you think, here comes Act 1, you put on your little ray tracing helmet, and, you know, you get your little fucking leather gloves on, and you get all fucking ready, and the game offers you a tutorial. Not to say learning the mechanics of a game is ever a bad thing, but this tutorial just really fucking stinks. Not only does this one take around 10 to 20 minutes to show you that the right trigger is shoot and crouching out of enemy sight is sneaking, it also shows you a hack mechanic that's incredibly clunky and harsh on the eyes for something so simple. Like, you couldn't just go the Watch Dogs route of quickly targeting and accessing. Like, look at how much stuff is on screen right now, just for a simple hack of a door. Now, like I said, tutorials aren't bad things, but when you've had no action, just dialogue for 20 minutes to be thrown into a simulation to learn how to choke on your own breath, it's just draining. Now, like I said, tutorials aren't a bad thing, but when you've had no action, just dialogue for like 20 minutes just to be thrown into a simulation to learn how to not choke on your own breath is just draining. Here's how it could have been done better. Let's go, you're still on a mission to steal a car. The guy sends Jackie, the only character I actually believe exists in this game, with you, so that, you know, he can keep an eye on you and he can back you up and stuff. So you get to the place where the car is, but it's locked. So you need to learn how to hack through the security to get in, right? And there. You've learned hacking, you've learned a skill, and you've done it in-game. But now you're in, and there's a lot of guards around. And you know that if you're going to kill someone, if you're going to shoot the place up, it's just going to cause a lot of unnecessary hassle. So what do? You sneak through it. You crouch, and you learn the mechanics of the field of view, which... Then when you find the car, you see it's a setup, and you meet the antagonist to this little storyline. There's a bunch of goons with him, and the jig is up. What are you going to do? You're going to have to fist fight him. So now, you learn how to block, you learn how to punch, you learn what combos are. Yeah, this game mansplains what combos are. And then, once you defeat them, realizing the pride is hurt, one of them pulls a gun. You pull your gun. All of a sudden, you take cover. You learn the cover mechanics. You learn how to shoot. And Jackie helps you escape, realizing he's been set up too, and he's like, nah, fuck that guy. He set me up as well. I'm gonna stick with you. We're gonna do some gang shit together, and we're gonna actually build some chemistry. Now, your bloodlust has been satiated. You can start developing a relationship with Jackie. Both of you have a common enemy, and then you can show a montage of you doing all the cool shit that you can expect to be doing in this game, rather than all the cool shit that you haven't done, and they're doing without you. Listen, game companies, tutorials suck at the best of times, okay? But the more you can implement it into your game, the more you can do it without people really noticing they're in a tutorial. So please, just don't suck the player out of an already boring start to do something even more menial. And after this tutorial, you think, surely not. There can't be gameplay. You're so starved that you actually start to believe there might just be some substance. And there is. Somewhat. You follow Jackie through a drug den, and you have the option to sneak your way through, or you can shoot maybe 7 people. All the while not really knowing why you're there, and you're being talked to by a character called T-Bug, who you've not been introduced to, but apparently your character just knows really well. And you're having your senses bombarded by the millions of things that they decide to put on the hood, along with all the bright lights and random objects that you can put into your inventory, that they haven't told you the purpose for yet, because why would they? Now, I chose to sneak through this level, and it made me realize that it's less of sneaking and more everyone just miraculously has their back to you just the whole time. It feels cheap. And even when people do evidently spot you, they take about 5 seconds to realize you're there. Like, I understand that games usually have a grace period, but this is like unusually far from it. They see you, and no matter what distance you're at, they don't really put 2 and 2 together for like a good 5 seconds. A lot of games have implemented this, but it's usually from very far away. The NPCs don't really make out what they're seeing, but you literally walk up to these guys and they just won't see you. It's like these motherfuckers are hiring fucking Stevie Wonder and Helen Keller as security. Anyway, some shit happens that doesn't really mean anything, and you get a virus in your cybernetics. I know. Sounds like story, doesn't it? Well, stop fucking dreaming, kid. This is Cyberpunk, and we don't do that here. After this, we have a van ride in front of us and start shooting, and there's me thinking, this might be action. Well, it was lackluster at best. None of my bullets really did anything, because my aim was akin to Michael J. Fox, and at some point the van just crashes. And then Jackie's like, yeah, cool. Nothing is said about who was in the van, or why they're trying to kill us, or maybe even follow the thread, you know, that could lead to some kind of story. They just ride right on through, because, you know, V's gotta get home. Oh, your character's called V, by the way. You can't name him. Once you pass this, the world claims to open up and be about to give you stuff to do. That's after a long ass walk up to your apartment to sleep, find a funny bug that makes you go bald when you wear a hat, and then you wake up. Do way too much dialogue with Jackie, and then you do some more dialogue with the doctor, who just takes the virus out, so that makes that story thread just completely pointless. Because you're not actually there for the virus, you're there to get some cybernetic upgrades, so what's genuinely the point in that bit? Anyway, at this point, I was around about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours in, and I already wanted to turn off the game due to just being incredibly bored. But I didn't. I persevered and thought, this game, it just has to get good at some point. There's no way it can't. This game has been in development for 8 years. It can't be this boring. My problem is I look back at the last hour and a half, 2 hours, and I realized that my character for an RPG has been criminally passive. We haven't actually made any decisions. We haven't done anything. Actually, the only person who has done anything is Jackie. He feels more like the main character. I feel more like a sidekick, the companion. I'm fucking Lydia. On top of all this, anyone who knows story writing, you know that as quickly as the story allows, you need to go into Act 2, knowing the character's motives, what drives them, their goals, who the antagonist is, and why he's stopping us from achieving our goals. So far, there isn't even a sight of this. They've set up nothing. They have a bunch of characters who talk to you that they didn't introduce, so you have no idea of the relationship with V. Let's put this into perspective of another game that I reviewed a month ago, called Watch Dogs Legion. Give you small text to learn mechanics in-game, and then let you just enjoy the rest of the prologue. After maybe 20 minutes, you were into the game and you were free to play at your own pace. Why can't this just do that? Why do I need all of this dialogue that doesn't set up anything, that doesn't tell me anything about anyone? Let me explore the city. Now, I know I'm harping on and not really talking that much about the gameplay, but I will do that in a second. But just one last thing before I actually talk about the game. And I did finally get to what seemed like it may actually be story. I know, fucking unheard of, right? But after you got your cybernetics removed, you go and talk to Jackie again, because that's just all you do in this game, it seems. And then you get into a car with a guy named Dex. He starts to give you a quest, albeit he starts to take about 20 minutes to explain a rather simple premise with its own PowerPoint presentation, but whatever, at this point I will take any action. So I have a chat with him for way too long, and then he drops you off, and then Jackie calls you, and then you have to explain the whole 20-minute premise that you've just heard to him. While Jackie is calling you, Dex, the guy you just got out of the car with, sends you a text message, and you have to read that while also trying to listen and have a conversation with Jackie. Then as soon as the phone call ends, Dex texts you again, just for more information that you already know and that he's already explained to you. But now you can get to the mission, right? No. You have to go to the mission and talk to Jackie again, who you've just been on the phone to. It genuinely feels like they're just doing absolutely everything in their power to stop you playing the game and just listen to all the voice acting they've paid for. All I want to do at this point is just fight some people. I want to go out and I just want to have gameplay. Just let me free run, or just let me drive somewhere. Just let me do something with some action in it. But instead, they're setting up nothing again. Like, I like RPGs. I like dialogue games. I'm a big fan of, you know, Fallout, Skyrim, Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic. I love dialogue-based games. But there has to be action in between, so that you're still there. But it's time we actually talk about gameplay. Is it good? Well, the movement's kind of clunky other than jumping. The control sensitivity isn't just set at one speed for you to get used to. It ramps up, which makes quick aiming incredibly hard to get used to. The driving has built-in input lag. It's awful. You have to press turn at least half a second before you actually want to, and it'll stop turning half a second after. Which is a shame, because without the lag, the driving actually feels really smooth turning corners, just driving at normal speed. But for some reason, they decided, no, fuck good mechanics, we're going to ruin it. The combat's pretty basic, but there's nothing really wrong with it. A lot of RPGs suffer from that, so it's not the end of the world. It's still playable. The only problem I had was that the only fun weapon to use was the katana, and it won't block bullets, so really it's quite useless when your enemy has a submachine gun. I know I touched on a sneaky mechanic earlier, but stealth really wasn't how this game was meant to be played, despite what it tries to tell you. You play this game to like Dishonored, where you're striving for like advantageous points to drop behind enemies and kill them with one swift blow and fuck off into the wind. This makes you grab them before choosing a lethal or non-lethal action. Like, just make it separate buttons. R is to kill silently, X is for non-lethal. It's easy, sleek, quick. It just feels like everything in this game is just a tad clunkier than it really needs to be. Speaking of clunky, I can only speak on behalf of current gen consoles, but the graphics in this game are fucking awful. I'm sure when you're spitting out RGB ray tracing spaceship that this looks incredible, but for most of us who are still playing current gen and on mid-price PCs, it's dog shit. And they make it even worse by putting film grain and motion blur over it, and just ruining any fidelity it ever had. It feels like they've just managed to abandon the majority of their actual consumers and just kind of market it to the very few minority who are going to be playing on next-gen consoles and like the latest RTX graphics cards. Also, let's talk about the HUD, shall we? In the options menu, there are 13 different HUD options, some of which come with weird distracting graphics. These aren't needed. I had to turn them off so that I could actually focus on anything that was on screen. Hacking at two different panels, both filled with information that you're supposed to process in a short time. It's all just distractions. There's been many successful games that have nice clear HUDs, but if you need all these bells and whistles, please, for God's sake, drop the opacity on them. But yeah, just fade them out when they're not there. You don't need to know how many bullets you have if your gun isn't drawn. You don't need to know how much stamina you have if you're not running or fighting. It's just clutter. That's all it is. Now for the big question. Does it slap? No. But it could. Which is a much better rating than I was going to give it. This slaps about as much as my nan, and she's dead. I've spoken to a lot of friends who played the game, and they had very different backstories that they started with, and they said it was a lot more action-packed. And when I actually went back and played it as through as Nomad, it was a bit better as a start. You at least got like a car chase, and you got to shoot your guns a little bit, and you got a little bit of bloodlust at your system. But then it reverts back into the kind of boring, menial, kind of just talking to a lot of people, not really doing anything for a while. Also, speaking to people who are further in the game, it does apparently get good about 6 hours in. So if you have the time to put into the game, I'd advise it. But if you're looking for just a casual, I just want to get on for an hour and play a game, this isn't it. This isn't for you. Now, for me, I wasn't hyped for this game after the first delay, never mind the second or third. But I expected it to be a buggy mess. Which it is. I know a few people who've had game-breaking glitches that they can't progress in the story, but I also expected to at least enjoy it. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, you didn't play it long enough, but I'm sorry, if a TV show took a whole season to get good, I'm not going to watch it. So if a game is going to take 5 or 6 hours, like, to actually feel like gameplay is a reward, and all this is just a chore, I'm not going to play that game. It's just not a good way to set up your game. So much of what happened in this game could have been done in the 2 hours, but it just wasn't. The intro of a game is meant to grip you, and it did everything but that. How this game has been receiving the highest ratings, I don't know. It's either really good publicity to write articles about how great a game is that everyone's hyped for, so that people just go and jack off while they read it. Either that, or I don't know, have they paid for it? Maybe. I just don't understand the hype for this game, and neither do a lot of people, it seems. After the second delay, I really knew something was wrong. I knew it'd be a buggy mess, and I expected things to be a little bit all over the place, but hey, at least it'll be a good game. It'll have some charm, it'll have some redeeming features. Wrong. On the slap to scale, I'd probably give it maybe a 4, and that's somewhat generous from what I've played. But, see, the thing for me is that I believe that this could be a very good game. I just don't think you should have to wait 6 hours for the game to get good. Once you get past that point, probably a 7 or 8. Probably going to be a really good game. Am I going to find out? I just don't know. If I could refund this game, I would. But I can't. So, I'm going to begrudgingly play it because I paid £54 fucking pound for it. Worst part is, this game genuinely could be good. it's just so poorly written and paced that all gameplay basically goes out the window because there just isn't any. But if you think I missed anything or just think I'm fucking stupid and wrong, leave it in the comments, let me know. If you agree and want to see more, maybe leave a little like and a cheeky subscribe, it's all appreciated. You can catch me playing games I'll review in future on Twitch at desert_pigeon. And as always, I've been Desert Pigeon. I hope you have a damn good day.